Atal Incubation Center, ALEAP VHub, and Atal Incubation Center, CCMB, in collaboration with G20 India Presidency, organized the Startup20X Hyderabad Sabha, an innovative and influential panel discussion. The event aimed to serve as a platform for various stakeholders in the global startup ecosystem to come together and share their perspectives. As part of this initiative, an open discussion forum was held to discuss the Startup 20 policy report. Facilitators of the startup ecosystem, government officials, CEOs of incubation centers, investors, and bankers joined the forum with the objective of achieving a more fruitful outcome.
We all know the lot of gaps in the whole startup ecosystem. So we need to highlight, they have identified some 5 pillars. In those 5 pillars, we have to identify the gaps and come up with some kind of policy decisions. We happen to identify one gap is we don't have a definition for startups. In the same context, there are various issues which all of us as ecosystem enablers, we are finding a few difficulties which can be addressed by the policy makers and also the international G20 nations. We can learn from G20 nations. That's the reason why we have Australia representation also here. We need to learn from the business leaders, and also the entrepreneurs and finance part, handled by banks, with what they are looking forward to from startups, and technology people like research labs, and I think we need to create an ecosystem. Already we have been doing it, but there are certain issues. We want to be open and come out with our result-oriented recommendations so that Government of India will take it forward. This is the background of this meeting today. We have been assigned with this work. It's not for the sake of work, also to improve the quality of startups and sustainability of the startups to reach to the global needs. What we need to do is the whole idea behind this. There is issues like access to credit, access to infrastructure, and they want social impact projects also. How we can scale up under social impact. And another issue is sustainability. A very big issue because often startups face a lot of problems with regards to sustainability and reach to the markets. Coming together is very important. So we startup enablers, all of us are startup enablers. We are all coming together with some consigns and recommendations so that we improve the whole ecosystem. We need to innovate, even as enablers, we need to innovate, create and deliver. These are the things which we have to keep in mind.
As AIC CCMB, we are focusing majorly on the life science healthcare startup, but again, some of the overlaps with the ALEAP and other entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. We're having this startup 20X. Earlier I think Peter Thiel he mentioned about startup 10X. That means the startup should be 10 times stronger in his journey than the second best in these competitors or whatever. So I think 20 countries and this G20, where I think we are making it as a 20X. I think that is the boost where two of the aspects. I think we'll discuss more about the framework and policies and the responsibilities of all of us. But I think the globalization and the freedom for startup to align with national policies and national mandates. I think that is what the prime, purpose of this particular G20 and its predecessor meetings that so far happened. Even today we are sitting for that purpose. In that context, I think, last line from my side is that being an incubator, I mean, major responsibility is there, not only from the government, being an incubator, I'm saying that it is our responsibility. Incubators need to take that responsibility, and I'm just telling here in front of all of you that the gaps that what Ramadevi garu trying to anticipate or expect from all of us to discuss and to resolve certain those of gaps. I think we are taking that ownership of those responsibilities to help all the startups to connect the dots. That's what my last line.
As a State Bank of India, we are committed to not just commercial this one, but we are also committed to social service and social welfare. And in the 3 to 5 million economy which the present government has, so we are totally committed for that. And I sincerely believe that startup ecosystem, unless it is developed, we can't reach that goal. And congratulations to ALEAP and CCMB institutions and other incubators for doing that job. All are startup enablers, and we are committed to innovate and deliver and enable the entire startup ecosystem environment. We all already have many SME intensive branches and a huge branch network. But in Hyderabad, we thought that though State Bank of India has already come up with startup branches in centers like Bangalore, in Mumbai Metro, in Chennai, and also in Gurgaon. So this will be the 5th startup branch we will be opening in Hyderabad on 5th of June. In fact, it's already completed. It will be formally inaugurated by the chairman himself. And that branch is committed entirely only for specifically for startups only. So that is our commitment, and we are very thrilled to help and be part of the entire startup ecosystem.
What we see when we talk about agriculture or social inclusion, we are talking, but it is whole ecosystem need to move towards rural areas, but it is lacking. Many of the ecosystem is vibrant in many cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, or Delhi, but really need to move towards rural areas. Then there may be the innovation ecosystem, the impact or the benefits we can reap for all the population. That's why maybe coming together these type of different innovation ecosystem players that may be interesting, because our competencies or resources we can share so that we can create much more impact than what we are now creating.
TIE definitely works on the vision which says for the entrepreneurs and by the entrepreneurs. So we bring a dearth of experience from the entrepreneurs who have been there, done that, and we really look forward to contributing to this mission.
But I represent a community which is mostly ignored, the grassroots innovations. Grassroots innovation is 2 types. One is for grassroots people and by grassroots. We're talking about by grassroots.
So the bank, HDFC as a startup journey started way back in 2016, right when the government of India announced Startup India initiatives. That's when we realized as a bank we need to have a separate and focused vertical for startups. So that's where we have formed our own division. Now since last 6 years, right, we are very active in the space. We started long back we started identifying the ecosystem partners, right, especially the incubation centers. Right, in last 4 years, we worked with more than 80 incubation centers. We supported them with the various knowledge sharing sessions, and then we started supporting them even with the CSR grants. So that's where even the ALEAP, last year we signed an MOU with ALEAP. That's where we promised we will get something as a CSR grant, and we have delivered that this year with 50 lakh as a one-time grant. Right, even the CCMB is right here. Even for them we supported with 35 lakhs this year. Right, so as a bank we kind of have a very good share. Right, so we out of the DPIIT registered startups, we say 70-80,000, 30-35,000 already banked with us. right? The vision of the bank was very clear. We have our own branches. Right? Across India now we have reached 25 startup or specific branches. In Hyderabad we have 2 dedicated branches, right? And these branches are working with startups since last 4 years, right? So we were in fact kind of the first player in this space. We started chasing the entire ecosystem and started supporting the entire startup or even the major startups as well.
Till date, CB has invested almost 8,600 crore in startups. It does financing where indirect manner. It invests in alternate investment funds registered with SEBI. So it is not directly assisting startups, but it assists the startups through alternate investment funds.
Collectively, the group of 20 nations represent a startup ecosystem that has more than 850,000 startups, more than 1,600 unicorns, more than 20,000 incubators. At the highest level, Startup 20 has 2 overarching objectives that must be achieved simultaneously. First, to harmonize the global startup ecosystems in order to facilitate collaboration across these ecosystems. But second, to do so while preserving the freedom of national ecosystems to develop and grow as they desire simultaneously. The group expects to produce the following outputs. First, the main deliverable of this group is the policy communique to be submitted to the world leaders. There are 4 other deliverables that will be produced in the process of producing the communique. First, a startup definition framework and terminology handbook. Second, a startup financing framework for financing across G20 nations. Third, mechanisms to accelerate startups addressing critical SDG and inclusion gaps. And fourth, a blueprint for creating a network of global innovation centers to foster collaborations across G20 nations and organizations.
We have recently started a company called Schedule Craft with one of the partners. We are now into manufacturing of noodles, the healthy noodles with herbal ingredients and also the seasonings with herbal ingredients.
We are into sustainable lifestyle. My company is based out of Kerala, so we have various products to help for as home decor or home wares. All those are having a common thing, coir. If I think many of you know coir, it is a byproduct of coconut, and we use everything. Our philosophy itself is Kalpa Vriksha. So we use everything. We are a zero waste company.
This communique has 5 pillars. And one of those 5 pillars is inclusion. And we try to articulate inclusion related policy directives at the highest level along 2 dimensions. One is how to support the underrepresented groups in these startup ecosystems of the world. And second is how to support those startups that can make the world radically more inclusive.
I think everybody have gone through the 5 pillars or what are the challenges they briefly mentioned, but we have to actually look from the rural sectors to cities and then to states and then to national, then to global. I think we have to change your perspective. Although we are talking about the countries today, 20 countries will be talking and having their discussions, how best we can actually share our services or platforms to other countries. That is the main agenda. But locally, if we don't understand our own problems and challenges and put forward properly to the nation, then India, how it can be the what you can say center or hub to all the countries to give provision from our side and also to their side, because 2-3 challenges that we have, for example, as Kuntal mentioned about, I think procurements and imports, simplest issues that we have, they look simple but they're very complicated. Okay, I can apply for an FCRA to get foreign funds for our own startups. It's not for the incubator, for example. The incubator is again supported by the government organization like CCMB. But the application is there with the MHA from past 2.5 to 3 years. We are blessed with our host organization CCMB, for example. And we are rooting out the funds because CCMB is exempted because of the CSIR. It's a society. So like that, many other incubators may be having these challenges locally to get the funds from foreign, be it the CSR money or the philanthropic money or whichever the way. So that is one kind of problem. So I think having our own these challenges nationally, how these mechanisms are friendly to our startups or the incubators, because we are talking about the startup 20X, how we can actually do it 20X when we are not even able to reach to the 10X. So I think having this challenge in front of us, not only one challenge, maybe some 100 or whatever. So today, let's put out those at least some 10 to 15 solid pointers that can actually add up to this draft document from this table, from this room.
But a couple of things that I have noticed, the similarities that are there between Australia, for example, and India. And Dr. Rama pointed that out earlier when she said, the quality of the startups. So that pipeline of startups, and it starts with getting the youth interested and the students and the people from their 10th grade or their early university years. Then you get them interested in the startup opportunity, and that's where it starts. Still, I'm sure maybe we have again similarities with India. In Australia, it is like startup is not considered as a viable career option by the students, the parents. So infusing that enthusiasm in the youth is very important.
That's what probably ATLs can actually look at it. Parents can be included in making some models. Parents can also be the award winners along with their kids. Maybe some teams can be made like that. I'm just thinking they're the blunt ideas, but that's the only way to include them so that they can understand about what is a startup. Our ATLs, for example, at the AIC, CCMB, we nurtured like AIC and ALEAP also. They actually are trying to make patents, trying to form companies at the age of 13, 14 or 15 years. It's changing, but yes, I think we have to have clear-cut adaptations of policies to build these, the foundation in each country.
I would like to bring in my own experience. We run an industrial training institute in a rural area. And they are boys and girls who are actually trained in fitter, electronics and all, but they have never an introduction of startup culture there, and they really do not know the opportunities existing. I think such startup, when you're talking about startups, I think these cases like the ITIs have to be considered because they're more practical people and they really don't know these opportunities. We try to bring them back. I think it is this kind of startup culture has to also go to those people who really can bring in wonders to this world. I think that's my submission.
Two inputs on both recommendation 1.1 and 1.2. So one is about defining startup. So my career is not very now. I just joined this ecosystem since last 5 years. But as in this stage, what we consider as startups in 2018-19 versus what the startup definition has been changed now, which is annual turnover up to 100 crores and not more than 10 years old. So somewhere when we say that we have to come up with a defined definition of startup across G20s, there are two challenges. So one challenge is every country's economy is different. Every company's the stake that the industry has, and whether it should be considered and transferred as a startup or should be considered an industry may change. So what we can have is we can have uniformity on defining criteria. However, the limit or the range of those criteria can be different in different economies. That is very possible. Secondly, also we have to, like when we say the startup definition says there are no limitation up to 100 CR or registration to 10 years you can call startup. Why there are particular funding schemes or incentives which have different criteria, like not more than 2 years old or not more than 1 CR revenue or turnover. So if we can define them and revise the startup definition, it will be one definition, and with this definition you will get all the incentives. No differentiation in between. The only factor which is differentiated can be the sector that they are working in. For example, 2 years is nothing when we consider about the lifespan of deep tech lifestyle startup versus the enterprise tech. So that can be one differentiator, but rest of the things can be off. And second, 1.2, which is establishing a forum to adopt policy framework. So this is again a challenge when Ministry of Education defined national education policy. They said this is a policy and has to be implemented by all of it. Whereas when it comes to startup policy, they say these are policy guidelines. And that's why the defining features are majorly controlled by the administration of institutes, the government bodies, the research labs, etc. So there is, lot of clarity on which is acceptable and which is not. It includes access to resources, it includes access to, intellect of the institute using IPs, etc. So can we come up with something which is a concrete policy with little flexibility, but we don't keep it open to individual institutes in defining the criteria. So that will be what I think.
We have national policies today. Maybe they define what 5 years before or so. But still adapting them to the institutional level, school levels, colleges level, university level, I think that's the problem. And also I think 2.2, one part of your right, recalibrating.
Yeah.
So that recalibration, you have an instrument or you have a kind of internal system auditing, for example, quarterly internal audits and external audits, quarterly that you do recheck, right? The policies need to be rechecked such a way, otherwise, you will be missing the speed of it. So that is one thing. NISP kind of policies we need more, and they have to be adopted by all. I think the government should be having, insisting that all institutions, it can be whatever the school or any organization, to practice this as a must. It is not. They are just on a paper. Okay, it is there. You can use, you can implement in your audit. At least IICs, Institutional Innovation Councils, at least trying to align their policies as per NISP. But I think you have to reach it.
It's very true. We don't have a compulsory mechanism in our policy. But as far as the education institutions is concerned. So we have a guideline saying that you have to promote innovations in the school and college level. But what happens is it matters to a paper publication, or it matters to a kind of bringing into the PR exercise kind of thing for the education institution. So now the imposition of credits to the curriculum that may impose in students, because the student, it's not the mistake of the students, or it's not the mistake of younger generation. It's the system that makes that as it is not compulsory, the focus is very low. If it gets a credit course, either in the up to 12th standard or in the kind of graduation level, that picks up. And also we are very low in, as Sir said rightly from Palestine, we are failing to scale the grassroots innovations. That's major impact. We are not even bringing it into light to our own children's life at home, because there is something has happened in the grassroots that is making the life easier in the grassroots level. Even inculcating the entrepreneurial spirits at the students, and also academic institutions, there should be a compulsory credit system should be involved in the national education policy.
Actually, startup, in my view, is a facility for entrepreneurs to get onto it, get the benefits out of it, what the system offers, and then take off as entrepreneur. Now, the definition has to be given, it should be given for the users, not for only the ecosystem. So when a village boy is there, a village girl, a woman is there, how do you understand the definition of startup vis-a-vis present company registrations, MSMEs, so many ecosystem already existing. It's not that we had nothing so far. So how do we differentiate between these two and that particular person in the village be able to understand, yeah, I have a choice of 3, 4, let me look at this. Or choose all of them. Now, today there's a confusion. And that has to be taken off because somebody says guidelines, somebody says policy, and there's no mandatory. And in the schools, what she said, that are we making them startups or are we promoting innovation? What that we need to do in the school? And startup innovation, in my view, are not totally identical. There's a difference in these two. Yes. Let's focus what is innovation and what is problem solving in the schools, and maybe as they grow, we can think of startups. I mean, that's of course a choice of parents and children.
Startup definition. What I would like to add is that when we say startups, we are actually alienating 99% of the new businesses that are registering every year. 99.5, I would say. Why? Because most of the businesses that are registering are Me-Too businesses. Somebody's doing manufacturing a generalistic thing, doing a service that is already there in the market. But I feel that these are the ones who are will be revenue positive maybe within the first 1 year or 2 years. How can we include them in the definition of the startup is something that we should think about, because it doesn't 99.5% businesses are going to be these kind of things where there is like literally no innovation, right? But they are the ones who are actually generating the revenue. They are the ones who are actually generating the employments. So we as incubators, we normally whenever we see these kind of businesses, we just say that we're going to come and set low. This is something that needs to change, and we need to embrace these people as well, because these are the ones who are actually doing a lot of good work.
I think a very important point. Everybody want to register as a private limited or even LLPs at the time of investment, they have to convert themselves to private limited. But these proprietorship companies or one man or one woman companies, they are doing fantastic at the ground level, but they are not, they have their barriers. So someone needs to actually address, how, I think Ritika, that point I consider this way, how we can actually make them inclusive to give equal status like a startup to get these incentives or maybe investments. I think that is one point that we have to make a note. I think forming, yes. Yes.
Because even partnership and
Partnership
proprietary also
companies, yes.
can be a startup.
Yes, other than the private limited and LLP, all others should be included. How these can be giving provisions to go global, for example. Because you mentioned here in the draft document, the foundation point about considering all these startups, so not foundation, probably finance. So the cash flows or business that you talk about, that maturity or the awareness at least, whether it is there for those non-private limited or non-startup category. So you have to create a category equivalent to the startup.
I think fundamentally we are missing one point when we come to the definition of startup. Actually, the startup evolution starts with the startup idea.
Yes.
And these ideas need to be recognized somewhere. And this would be at the grassroots level, or it would be at the academic institution, it would be the science exhibition. Using the science exhibition, a lot of these students actually come up with a lot of ideas, and once the exhibition is over, it is done. So they don't really nurture that particular idea and take it to a startup or a commercialization stage.
Yes.
So it was very important to actually recognize and define that this is also a process of the startups.
Listening to your point, and sirs, actually, I think it's not written in this document about the open innovation. Why can't these school student innovations, or they are just trying to spend some 30% or 40% of their time, school time, to bring some innovative solutions for the societal problems. But if they are not patenting, if they are not forming the companies, at least schools or maybe those organizations can actually make them as an open innovations where startups can. I don't know, some mechanism needs to be created. Anyway.
Focus to the finance task force. Just one thing where what we miss or being an enabler to startups, I believe when we do investor connects or investor programs, we feel there is also a lack of mentoring which is required for every startup. While I know funding is a very important aspect, but whether the startup is investor ready. So I think 3.1 that we're talking about can be in complementary, or rather 3.4 can be in complementary to 3.1, because mentoring or awareness is equally important where we talk about raising investments. So I think that needs to be clubbed rather than having a separate comment.
Is startup just an innovation? We're always talking about the innovation angle in startup. And not every business or not every product has an innovation. Because if I look at food has, you need not really require that kind of innovations in food, but you require that honesty and processing that is required in food, because that is the basic and it has to feed the masses. But I think not every product needs an innovation. So this entire thing of startup, even when we go to any kind of funding or grants, they always ask us, what is the innovation in your product? And I think this really puts us back, because not every product needs that kind of innovation to be proved as a startup.
There's a airline differentiation you can understand, that there may be some tech-based investments, innovation-based investments or grants or startups. Again, we are purely business oriented. Even the startups which are talking about the innovation, they may not be understanding the business acumen very well. But you guys, in case if there is no such innovation per se is there, but you are doing the best. I mean, there is a differentiation. I totally agree. So I think you have to hit to the right, what you can say, investment agencies or granting agencies where innovation is not there. I think Ramadevi are already having a dozen of schemes into that line, but thanks for the point.
My concern again is with regards to, maybe we need to recommend some kind of definition which takes care of all these aspects. Like it need not be something very innovative, but startup. What is that startup? Somewhere we have to create that. So it's not like 5 years old, 10 years old, something like that. There is a very vague way of looking at startup definition. Once we come up with a startup definition, the other things we can put in, like they are eligible for this, they are eligible for tax exemption, they are eligible for international alliance. Everything falls into line. But who, as Ganesh sir said, the rural, we need to give opportunity even to the rural. There is so much innovation happening. So can we bring this definition even to the rural, not linking with, there's so many, like we have almost SISM, we have BD, we have Ministry of MSME, each one is dictating one kind of parameters. So in SISM, if you are a proprietor, you are not eligible. In Ministry of MSME, if you are, if you are private limited, you are not eligible. So this is some way, creating a lot of confusion. The whole ecosystem we are losing on. For example, what is happening is a proprietary concern, which is a very good enterprise. We are asking them to change to private limited. Because to enable them access to everything, that should not be the condition. When you have a startup, you have a separate flow of everything, all the schemes. There's some innovation. You identified innovation. You are it's a product which is going to scale up in such a level, you should be given everything.
One thing is every innovator is not an entrepreneur and vice versa is true. So the way definition demands is that you got to have an idea and then you also want to be an entrepreneur, then only startup will allow. Let's be clear about it. Then we know that automatically we segregate a lot. Those who don't want to have an idea, they will go somewhere else. In this context, all grassroots innovators have innovation. They come, They solve the problem, the solution they bring out. Therefore, there is innovation. They want to disseminate. You call it entrepreneurship, whatever. They want to disseminate so beneficiaries get maximum benefit. So the eligible people are available. In 85% people available, we have not gone there yet. What kind of a decision point of process we have? 7 years now, 2016 we started. The people who are ready with innovation, ready with solutions, ready to disseminate their products, we have not touched them. And you're looking at somewhere where train children, train colleges, train things. Why? If all of you, ecosystem, wants to really help this country, go to the people who are ready-made available. Make a difference first only for them. Can we make it a human being, has an idea, something useful to other people, and it will recognize him by the way. Like if you go to a bank, just ask Aadhaar card. What more you ask to open an account? Can we do something like that, and why not? Ultimately, we are doing all this for the benefit of people, not for counting number of startups or money invested. It's a benefit should go to the people. 7 years, startups have benefited how many? 90% are IT. And if you really take a stock of it, impact is not there in society. Most of us don't use startups even today of 7 years. But whereas if you go to the grassroots, there every innovation there has got utility by millions of people. And it's available. They need ecosystem, they need a friendly ecosystem, they need enabling ecosystem. Let's focus on that. Initially, first 5 years, let's concentrate on ready-made available startups, and then build the schools and colleges later, and with that strength to bring up and bring products. From startup phase 1, phase 2 should be made. Thank you.
Sustainability, when it comes again, not having those scalable numbers, but at least scalable products. Whether you can actually sustain your business or maybe initial 2 to 3 years, or maybe whether you are able to pivot it or not. About we are startup 20X we are talking, but startup 10X at least linked to a sustainability matrix. There are 10 things about the needs. You know most of them and all of them also. Just reading out so that we can open it for 2-3 questions or recommendations. So needs, opportunity, discovery, timing. Timing is the key again. And pivoting, that's also mostly we discussed, or maybe most of them are adapting. And speed, that I mentioned to you, speed is the key. The pace, every incubator or any ecosystem stakeholder need to adapt. And what kind of models you are adapting and learning the cash flows. And ultimately, the team, because funding I'm not mentioning because we have enough funding. So team again, strategy, you should be having and character. So I think having these things, how do you actually modulate or maybe link on to that sustainability models? Maybe 2-3 recommendations if you can give, that will be great.
Yeah, I restrict myself to grassroots innovations. I have knowledge of last 17 years of working on this. Now, what is scalability? Scalability is the geography, or is numbers, or it is revenue. So you've got to be clear about it. Let's be case. Like Malaysian transformation, most of you know, it is applicable only to Project-Pally levers. So what is scalability of this? That every house in Project-Pally lever should get it. That's the scalability ends. There is certain animal treatments, and they are useful only where the plant is available. You take this plant from there all the way to other places, it may not work. So the scalability of any innovation, especially grassroots innovations, which are customized. Nature is customized, technology standardized. So there is a limit for scale. And when you do the scaling across geography, the efficiency changes, effectiveness changes. Perhaps you are aware of this. But when the grassroots innovator comes to the incubator, he says, can you scale it up? He says, no, I cannot, I don't need to scale it up. It's not an innovation to scale.
The SDG goals, in fact, of each nation needs to one good recommendation. Each nation should address one SDG. That's what you say. And every incubator should take up one kind of addressing one issue. And another aspect which is hurting our startups is we are encouraging manufacturing, but there is no infrastructure. Affordable infrastructure is not available to startups. So how do we address? There's some kind of recommendations required in this. Automatically, each state should have a startup infrastructure provided. Let us collaborate as a network partners. We are not doing this for the sake of policy or something, but improve our own self. Like I learn from you, you learn from me. We can share our reference and create a platform. So finally end up with us, startups are sustainable. I thank each one of you for coming.